This is the 2025 Subaru Forester, and it's refreshed, but it's not really revitalized, which is fairly typical for this very conservative brand. The upgrades we've been given are good and welcomed, so today I'm going to test it and see if they cut the mustard. So can you believe that the Subaru Forester is 27 years old, and it's always been seen as the slightly frumpy younger brother to the Outback, but despite that, Subaru has sold 2.7 million units. So it sits in the very competitive compact SUV category, which is one of the most competitive and by far the largest in the United States. So it's hard to believe, but every single exterior body panel has been changed. Check out these squared off wheel arches. Actually makes the car a little bit more modern looking this year, but overall it is very generic looking to the original Forester, which was quite quirky when it first came out. So the exterior dimensions have barely changed. It's about ½ an inch wider and it's about 0.6 of an inch longer, but they have stiffened up the chassis by about 10% to improve its dynamic performance. So at the front, it's got this really quite bold new grille. It's a little bit squarer, particularly at the sides. It's got this new badge right here in the middle, and it's got these LEDs on either side. So this is a 2025 Sport model, so you get these really kind of nice bronzed 19-inch wheels wearing these Bridgestone Turanza 235/50s all around. You'll also notice on the back here, symmetrical all-wheel drive badges have been moved from the trunk lid to the side rear pillar on both sides. So at the back, if you can see past this dust, not a whole lot from a design perspective has changed, although you do get a foot-operated hands-free tailgate. Opening that up, it reveals a very handy 30 cubes right here. And if you put those seats down, you get around 75 cubic feet. And then you get this all-weather cover as well as some additional space under here. No spare wheel in this car. Got to get the Wilderness for that. And then you get a little spot here for your luggage cover. So disappointingly, there are almost no changes under the hood. It's still the naturally aspirated 2.5 litre flat 4 engine. It's got 180 horsepower, 2 less than the old model, which had 182 obviously, but torque has increased by 2 foot-pounds. It's now got 178 instead of 176, and it does kick in at 3,700 RPM, much better than the old model, which kicked in at around 5,400. It's got a CVT transmission, which simulates 8 speeds instead of 7, and stomp on it from a traffic light, and you're going to get from 0 to 60 in around 8.3 seconds. So how much is it? Well, base prices on the Sport model start at $34,500, give or take a few pennies. Has got some options: Harman Kardon premium audio, reverse automatic braking, and that hands-free kick tailgate that I mentioned earlier. At destination, and your out-the-door price for this car is $37,950. Subaru has redesigned the seats. They're even better up front than they are in the back, but they're pretty comfortable, pretty squishy. You get a nice little set of cup holders right here, and then down there you get vents and 2 USBs. You also get a little bit of sort of bronze cloth trim as a feature right here. Definitely nicer quality plastics than the old model, and then a couple of little spots right here to stick a few odds and ends in. Inside you get these upgraded and quite aggressively bolstered front seats. Really nice and comfortable, and they hold you in despite the fact that this is not going to perform a 1G turn. Really nice wheel, leather covered, and then the quality of the materials all over the car is actually really, really nice. In front of the passenger, you got this really cool sort of like, almost like bubble wrap. It's really a cool sort of ritzy add-on to the normally sort of fairly conservative interior. I like that. Subaru's sort of like portrait style entertainment, infotainment, you name it, that's what it does. System is not my favorite. You've got to click into here to go into the climate controls, but you can set them from the outside right here. It's a bit laggy sometimes, but it's pretty decent. At least you get a physical volume button. And this one has X mode, as all of these Subarus do. You get snow, dirt, normal, or deep snow and mud. They will only activate if you're doing less than 25 miles an hour. Down here you get a wireless charger, which works through my case. There's a little on-off button right here. And you've got the old-fashioned 3.5 jack, and then 2 USBs. I do like this sort of rubberized new shifter that they've got going on here. You also get a manual mode, but it just simply isn't worth it. Down here you get 2 decent-sized cup holders, parking brake, and then a 12-volt. And then there's some additional storage space in the armrest. So for 2025 you get Subaru's SI drive system, which gives you 3 selectable driving modes, and they are accessible by this control here. So normally it's in I mode, which is the sort of efficiency mode. So it prioritizes fuel efficiency, and that's kind of the standard mode. It's a little bit sluggish when it's in that mode. Press the button again, which is Sport Sharp. So it does improve the vehicle's responsiveness and cornering abilities, but unfortunately it just doesn't compensate for the lack of raw horsepower. As the driver, you get a pretty decent display, a sort of a digital analog combo, speedo on the right. You can also have the speedo in the middle. We've also got lane keep assist on. We're currently in park. Stop start is off, and then it shows that we're in S sport mode, how many miles, and then the odometer. All right, what we do now is take it for a drive. We're already off road, so I'm going to take it to my little technical hill. I'm sure it'll have no problems getting up there, and then we'll drive it a little bit and see how it goes. So on the way up here, I did notice that it felt more refined, and the whole structure just feels nicer in general. It seems like every iteration of the Forester or the Outback or any of Subaru's vehicles, they stiffen the chassis by 10%. And I'm like, okay, so why don't they just stiffen it by 30% from the beginning to make it better? But I guess what they do is they like to make these little updates because it's a good marketing ploy for when the new model comes out. They can say, hey, this is what we did. We changed this, and the other. So nothing revolutionary about this car. It's just slowly morphing to be better and better and better. But it does have a hard time up against its competition because it lacks power. Even with these new revisions and the torque kicking in a bit lower, that's all well and good, but there's not enough torque to kick in lower down. So it either needs a turbocharged engine, which they used to have, the old Forester XT, which I loved, or rumors are that Subaru's working on a hybrid. Now, their last hybrid was terrible. It wasn't even as economical as the regular gas engine. It was awful. Now they've got some new engines with hopefully north of 200 plus horsepower, 200 foot-pounds of torque or higher. But tell you what, right now the suspension is actually pretty smooth on this rough pavement. So we'll head out to this little spot here. We'll see how it does on our little technical hill. And I feel like it's not a Wilderness, so I've got no underbody protection, otherwise I would take it on the other one. But I'm worried. That one's got some pretty deep ruts on it and pretty big rocks, and I'm a bit worried about that. But this should work. And I want to make sure that it gets up there because I failed with the Toyota Crown because it doesn't have ground clearance. 5.8 is just simply not enough. 8.7, perfect. All right, turning circle on this, pretty good. It's a little more compact than the Outback, but it's a little taller. But I like how compact it is. Steering is quite light, but not excessively so. So far the brakes have been kind of nice. And I got some ruts and some bits and bobs on this road that sort of test out the suspension a little bit. I'm liking this. It's nice on this road. You don't need a lot of power to really go off-road. So it doesn't show up its lack of straight line speed. All right, so here's my little hill. We'll just situate ourselves to head up it. Okay, we'll pick snow and dirt, and that gives us hill descent control automatically kicks in, and also a rough road sign as well. So let us go. Take it a little slowly up here. Street tires, remember, so I have to give it a little bit of the beans before we come over the top. And look at this. Oh, a little bit of slippage there, so let's back up. Bit of power. Piece of cake. All right, so a little bit of a scrabble, but never in doubt about the ability of the Subaru symmetrical all-wheel drive system. Might have had a problem if it had been muddy. Back down the hill. This is where it starts to do the old tip. Whoa, wheel off the ground. Turn in a little bit. Okay, hill descent kicking in. You can hear the wheels controlling the descent. Nicely done, Subaru. All right, let's head out of here and see what the little Forester is like. Well, A, on the rest of this little dirt track that we're on, and B, on actual pavement. This car's done about 4,300 miles. No squeaks or rattles. Now, I do like these seats. I think they're not going to help you on a paved road, just because it just doesn't go fast enough around the corners to warrant that. But on this kind of terrain, they really do hold you in quite nicely. Yeah, it's a good little car. And the suspension's not too hard, but it's nicely damped, and so far there's not much body roll. I'm kicking up a whole load of dust behind, but let's see what happens when we throw it around this tight bend here. All right, here we are at the paved sections. Let's see how it performs. All right, engaging SI drive. Let's see how it does. Transmission's pretty smooth, and as I said, it mimics an 8-speed transmission. Previously, it was a 7. They also added some additional sort of engine sound absorbing material, and it definitely is quieter in the cabin. And I feel like it handles actually pretty good. Now I can feel the difference in when that torque kicks in. Before, you'd stomp on it and it would rev and it would just make a buzzy noise. This actually feels a lot more drivable. So what I thought was a small change is in fact moderately useful in this car. And it does change down nicely too. They've matched the transmission with this engine quite nicely. The Bridgestones are not complaining, and I'm being pretty well held in my seat thanks to these chunky bolsters. I can get this thing along here quite quickly. I'll be honest, if I can have some fun in a car, that is half the battle won. And it's not complaining. It does run out of power at the top end, but I do like the way the transmission works. Nice shifts. Yeah, on the move it feels quicker. Now, obviously 0 to 60, 8.3 seconds. It might be even slower than the old model, but who cares about that? I want drivability once I'm on the move. I'm not going to win any stoplight races, so I should just forget about that. But once you're on the move, the engine stays in its sweet spot without having to rev its absolute balls off, and then the steering isn't the best. It could be a little better. It requires quite a few inputs, even mid-corner. But we are steaming along here, and I'm suitably impressed. So what do we think? Well, the Subaru Forester is no longer as funky as it used to be, but they've definitely refined it over the years. And of course, for most folks, it's got 8.7 inches of ground clearance and amazing all-weather off-road ability, but they just don't care. Me, personally, and probably a lot of other folks, could seriously use some more power. Once again, thanks for watching. We appreciate it. Like, subscribe, and we'll catch you next time for another video.